We're terrified of making mistakes. But here's what I've learned. You really get judged on the actual mistake. You get judged. Yeah, you get judged on what you do next. So this is how you do what you do next. This is the Matt J. Hannum Show, where I have candid conversations with inspiring people and turn topics inside out to help you grow your business and create more freedom in life. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the show. Oh, I don't know, maybe you're not. Maybe you're not terrified. Maybe it's just me. I'm just the only human out here doing this thing. But why do we worry about making mistakes? You know, it's so funny because when we do make mistakes, generally after we rectify them, after we do whatever, we feel better. But for some reason, you know, we just get so caught up on trying not to make mistakes that it prevents us from going that next step. If you were listening, you would have heard I made a mistake in the audio introduction here. And, you know, I was like, who cares? It's a small mistake in the audio introduction. Who cares? I bet you don't care. It actually maps and tracks to my point. But, you know, I'm going to tell you a couple little stories. But the thing is, right, we just get judged on what's next. And this is a funny thing because you can turn it into a positive. My first business was a fencing contracting business. You know, we built fences for, and we built, you know, land developers and all those kind of things. But our first customer was just a retail customer, just someone who wanted a grey fence. And, you know, I had to go and, you know, I didn't know how to put fences in myself. So we hired contractors and we were like working through this whole process. And I got a phone call and, you know, obviously I was terrified, and I got his phone call and I was like, oh no, you know, there was a problem with the workmanship, and I kind of knew this was going to happen. The guy I should have known better, and he wasn't a bad dude. He just wasn't that experienced in the end, or he was, but he just wasn't one of those like really, you know, high quality, you know, contractors. And I realized he come up short of the mark. And so I got out there and I had a chat with this guy, and he was pretty upset as the owner. And, you know, I worked with him. I got one of our other contractors that I've been working with who I'd wanted to do the job in the first place. And we went through and made some remedies and fixed it. And, you know, he said something to me that really has stuck with me for a long time, that customer. And he said, you know, we've all been there before, you know, we've all made mistakes, and we know you guys are young and new in the business. And I was only in my, you know, mid-20s. And he said, look, what really matters is, you know, how you follow through. And we did follow through. You know, it didn't actually cost me a lot to sort the issue out, but it cost me the profit, at least. And, you know, but it was worth it because I learned a lot. You know, I learned a lot from how you know, what you do next makes so much more of an impact than the mistake itself. I mean, because it's not just, beginners aren't the only ones that make mistakes, you know. When you're growing, when you're leading, when you've got a team, when, you know, things aren't instructed properly, whatever that looks like, mistakes happen all the time. And if you're in a business, you know this. Literally your job half the time is like, okay, fixing mistakes, finding problems, you know, doing these kinds of things. But like the real test is ownership. And this is what I love because, you know, one of our values is own it. And that's what this means. When something goes wrong, you know, you can either just run away from it or you can own it, you know. And on this occasion and almost every time since that I can think of, you know, I'll pick up the phone, I'll write the email, I'll do the thing. You know, and the quicker you jump into these things, the better. People will react and respond in a better way. Trust goes up, not down. And ownership really builds authority and helps people to get comfortable with who they're working with. Amazingly, you know, clients don't expect this perfection. They expect honesty, and they want to be communicated with as much, if not more, than the job being done exceptionally well. They want to just know that they're comfortable that you're going to do the job. But silence, avoiding, moving away from things, these are really dangerous things to do. And, I think you have to quickly show up and show them who you are. And all of a sudden they'll relax, they'll settle down. They'll realize that you've got their back. Mistakes, I've ironically found over many, many years, create a differentiation. We've had numerous occasions where we've had a client and something's gone wrong. And I found that over that time, these become longer and lasting relationships. So if you're going to get really technical, your LTV, your lifetime value of a client, I think can go up by you pushing the edges of things, making some mistakes and turning around and rectifying them. This is an unwritten rule. And I think you underestimate the the outcome that comes from going through a mistake, going through a problem with a client rather than just running on and thinking, quick, I'll just find someone else. Don't worry about it. I won't go and fix that. So here's the reframe. When you make a mistake, and the pre-reframe is try to push those edges, and making mistakes is okay, because the reframe here is if you don't aim to never make a mistake, if you aim to respond to mistakes, knowing that they happen, and then you respond with integrity, whatever situation is sitting there, it's going to work out. So, this is what I want you to do. I bet you've got something right now. There's something you need to deal with. There's something you've been avoiding. There's a message, a phone call, a customer. There's something. I guarantee you that if you open the dialogue, turn this thing into a positive by showing who you really are, what you're capable of, and what you're willing to do for that relationship. It can be a business relationship. It could be a personal thing. But maybe that very conversation is the thing that strengthens the relationship, and it should be the most important thing on your to-do list right now. Thanks for listening to the show, guys. Why don't you come and have a chat with me over on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. My handle is @MattJHannam. And as I've mentioned, we're heading over to YouTube soon. So I'm going to start actually filming these little podcast episodes and turning them into a little bit more. So, please comment, like, and subscribe once we get over there. And if you're ready, find my handle @MattJHannam on YouTube, because that's the place that they're going to be coming. Until next time, guys. Cheers.